Hi, everyone. It's Dr. Alfie here. I came to talk with you briefly today about how to consume the news related to the trial of the murder of George Floyd by Derek Chauvin. So I'm not going to make this long, but I do feel like it's really important that we have this conversation. I've been asked about this a number of times for media, and I thought now is a really good time for me to share this with you. I tweeted about this over on my Twitter account at Dr. Alfie, but I wanted to reiterate for all my friends over here on IG some of the points. So the first thing is to understand, especially for young people, especially for my young people, that there is a way to consume news about this that does not re-traumatize you as much. Let me say that, because the whole experience for those of us who are Black and those people who love Black folks of the diaspora is traumatizing. There's no way around that. There's no way of avoiding the reality of that. By the same token, I think it's important to recognize that there's this idea that the only way you can demonstrate your commitment to the cause of justice for George Floyd, justice for Breonna Taylor, justice for Ahmaud Arbery, justice for Mike Brown, and so many other people, Sandra Bland, all the Black people we have lost to acts of police, senseless acts of police violence, is to be glued to the news and glued to the TV, consuming it continuously. And I would say, as a mental health professional, I don't agree with that, particularly for our young people. You are not demonstrating your level of wokeness by watching that continuously. And what I mean by that is there are many ways to be conscious and to be woke. Many ways. Other things that you can do are to donate to causes that are working and fighting for justice for people like our brother George Floyd. You can donate your time, you can donate money, you can donate your social media skills for amplification of their messages. You can check on people who are actually in the fight, your friends who are in media who have to watch and follow the trial, who have to be exposed to all of the vitriol that's coming from people who don't understand why we're upset about what happened to George Floyd that was needless and senseless. So there are so many ways that you can contribute to the cause from a space that allows you to remain safe. So that's one thing, is to get away from this idea, this concept that the only way you can demonstrate your commitment is to re-traumatize and trigger yourself by watching the trial on loop. Another thing that I want you to do, and that I hope you will do, is pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you when you've had enough. So for some of you, you have a responsibility because of your job to pay attention to the trial. I understand that. And if that happens to be you, then ideally what you will do is you will find a way to take breaks so that it's not this one long continuous barrage of information that's coming at you, particularly as we move toward the other side of the trial, where we're going to hear so much negative information, right? Because this is what happens. You assassinate the character, as my friend Areva Martin says, the journalist, the world-renowned journalist and attorney. The character of the person who was murdered is going to be assassinated to give people some justification for why the things happened to him the way that they did, but there is no justification. And we know that. So making sure that as you consume this news and consume this information, you're doing it in a way that allows you to take care of yourself. A third thing I want to mention is making sure that you are replenishing what you're losing if you have to consume. Let's say you only consume in snippets. That's what I tend to do. I wait till the end of the day when I feel like I can get myself together for the full day, build up my resources, build up my resilience, and then I may allow myself 30 minutes of listening to a summary of what happened through the day's events. But I can't do that every day. That's every few days. At this point, it's probably been maybe every 4 or 5 days that I've allowed myself that. But even within that, after I finish, I have to go find something to bring myself back up. For me, I'm addicted to Netflix European crime shows. For some reason, that's a distraction because some of that stuff seems so completely far-fetched. It's taken my mind completely away from what I'm experiencing in the moment, watching or listening to the summary of the trial. For other people, that's painting. For other people, that might be dancing. For other people, that might be sitting and talking with a loved one. But whatever that is, it is my hope is that you find something that you can do to swing that pendulum from a place of heaviness and sadness, anger, frustration, even fury about the injustice that occurred in the taking of George Floyd's life, to another place of finding peace for yourself. Granted, I understand that's going to be hard in the context of what we've seen. For those of us who are Black, in the context of what we've experienced personally, either directly ourselves or through our loved ones. I think about the men in my family and the different encounters they've had with police that were horrible, and that were negative and that were traumatizing. And even in the context of all of that, my hope is that you will find a place to come back to your own equilibrium, your own space of peace. The final thing I'll say is that for those people who love Black people who are not Black themselves, I think it's important that we create space, or that you create space, to allow the Black people in your life, whom you love and whom you care for, to grieve in the ways that they need to grieve as they experience the pain and the trauma of this trial. You may have to sit and listen while people describe how they're feeling. I think one of the most important things I can say is that for anybody who loves a person who is Black in this moment, as we walk through this journey of justice for George Floyd, that one of the things you won't do is be silent. Right? And I'll say it again, that one thing you will not do is be silent. Because for many people, silence is violence. Silence can be interpreted in so many different ways. And I think for those of us who love people of color, I as a Black woman with love for my Asian American brothers and sisters who are grieving because of the rampant anti-Asian violence, it is important for me in this moment to not be silent. And I think the same thing is true for people who love Black people like me and other Black folks, that the silence is one of the most deadly things that we can do. Because there's so many ways that people will fill in the blanks with silence, and most of them are not good. Really find them. If you have children, teenagers in your home, I think you have a duty to ensure that you are having age-appropriate conversations with their children. I talk about this all the time. And that age-appropriate ways of having these conversations with your children require you to check in regularly, require you to be quiet and listen as the children tell you what they're feeling, require you to help children name their feelings. And if they can't name them, you name them, right? So I love this organization, a company called Slumber Kids. Slumber Kids has some different stuffed plush animals and books to help people with processing different kinds of emotions. If you can afford it, buy your kids a Slumber Kids. This is for younger children, probably 12 and under, and a book, and sit down and have a conversation about the emotions that they're feeling, because they're hearing stuff from their little friends, right? And you want to make sure that you're aware of what the children are hearing so that you can correct any misinformation, but more importantly, so that you can help them process their emotions. If you have teenagers, I've set limits on what my teenagers are allowed to consume in this context. Try to set those limits, but more important than anything, be in constant communication with your children in age-appropriate ways to ensure that as part of this process of helping them manage their emotions, if they're Black kids, you're also engaging in this process of healthy racial socialization. There are young boys out here who are terrified to leave their homes because they're scared of what's going to happen to them. We've got to be able to talk to our kids about that and process those feelings. In some cases, for those of us who are Black moms, some of us are thinking the same thing, baby, I'm terrified for you to leave the house too. So let's work through together how we going to process these emotions and feelings. So I know this was a longer video, but I just felt like it was so critical, vital, and important for me to come in and talk a little bit about what we need to be doing as Black people and people who love us as Black people to take care of ourselves in this really traumatic moment of what has happened to our brother George Floyd, of the prosecution and trying of the case of this person, Derek Chauvin, who took his life senselessly and needlessly. And within all of that, of making sure that you all, everybody within the sound of my voice, understands that you are valuable, that your mental health is important, and that there are ways that you can fight for justice for this brother and his family in a way that still allows you to not be overwhelmed, because we want you to stay here and be with us too. So I hope that this helps you. I hope that you will share it, because there are tips and strategies in here. And I hope that you will let everyone in your space know how you're feeling, what you need from them, and what you're going to do and what you require from them for you all to get through the viewing and consumption of news of this trial together. So as always, I'm wishing you lots of love and light. And of course, I'm always hoping that it is informed by good, culturally relevant science.